And we are delighted to welcome a special guest onto the pod. Not only do we have one Rach, we have two Raches today. It's England legend and BBC co-commentator Rachel Brown-Finnis. Rach, it kind of feels fitting that we've got you back on the pod. The last time you were on the show was when we were obviously recording on the steps of Wembley, hours after England had lifted the trophy. It was chaos everywhere. There were scenes. I was drunk. It was just bedlam everywhere. And it was hours after you just commented on that game. Let's talk about England-Spain tomorrow. Squeaky bum time. It's fair to say that the England Euro campaign this year has had a few ups and downs, a few more than 2022 at least. Do we think it's kind of been a mixture of luck and resilience, or do we think actually this is England who have, overcome challenges, overcome barriers, and actually this is just the nature of tournament football? Like, it doesn't always go your way, but you find ways to win and you just get the job done, even if it's not particularly pretty.
Did you say luck?
Yes, I did. I did throw that word in there. I knew it was a trigger word. I'm not trying to, it's early morning. I don't want to set the day off.
Should have heard what you said before we started recording, RBF.
Yeah,
honestly.
You wouldn't tell me, would you? Genuinely, I mean, what's the famous saying? You get luckier as you work harder, or something to that sort of sentiment. And I truly believe that sort of fully aligns with what the Lionesses have shown. Obviously, the start of the tournament was not great. We didn't play very well. We were put on the back foot by France early doors and didn't get the results. But that put us in a position where we had to go on and win every single game. And it's been knockout football since that point. And I think sort of what we've shown as Lionesses is they're up for the fight. And whether it takes a fight, whether it takes a brilliant game of football like we saw against the Netherlands, where it was almost a flawless game, both in and out of possession. Whether it was against a team that we were expected to beat, like Wales, we went out and got that done. And then it got into the true rounds of knockout football in the quarterfinals, and that was proper squeaky bum time, wasn't it? Oof, that game against Sweden had absolutely everything in it. But Rach, you've been out here the whole time. Watching Spain, everybody was like, wow, aren't they amazing? Don't they look brilliant? Are they going to cruise to the final? And in some respects, they sort of have. But actually, I'm looking at our parallel journeys of England to the final and Spain to the final. And I'm like, we've learned a lot about ourselves. We've learned a lot about how we can play, what happens if we don't play to our best. And we've come through all of those challenges, whereas Spain are almost kind of not really had a glove laid on them. That the game in the semi-final was the first time really that a team genuinely caused them too many problems. And that was, I feel that's more down to the opposition than it was to them playing sensational football. That's why I put England as favourites going into this game, because we've kind of we've been living knockout football for what feels like a month, pretty much straight away after that first game. And we're sort of ready for whatever it takes to go on and win that game.
So, Rachel, we're both on the same team here. I have England in my little office part, and there's about £30 riding on it, so it's quite serious stakes, to be honest. Yeah, it's pretty big. But Rach is a bit of a believer in Spain. So, Rach, I mean, jump in here, because me and Rach are on the same page with this one, to be honest, mate.
Oh, are you sure you don't want me to tell her what you said just before she came on?
Look, what we talk about on the pod before the pod starts is the pod's business. Okay.
I don't feel part of it unless you've told me what she said.
I believe the word jammy was used, and if England won, that would be the case. I didn't think you'd like that. So we're definitely not on the same page when it comes to that, Chloe. I think I'd said Spain from the beginning, because I think we thought England would probably maybe top the group, and if that was the case, it potentially meet Spain earlier. So when we had to pick, I said head said Spain, heart said England. So that's why I know Chloe's desperately trying to throw me under the bus here, but I don't think it's going to work, because both teams that we've chosen have ended up in the final. So we've done something right. Actually, RBF, I was going to ask you, how have you found being on this side during a tournament where it's not all, sunshine and roses for England? How have you found it from the media perspective? Sometimes, especially with England not playing well, and then when they do play well, it's often not because England played well, but because the other team didn't play well. How have you found that as a former Lioness and now pundit?
I found it quite jarring, actually. I'm not going to lie, because journalists are sort of writing narratives around, is Sarina still kind of good enough for the title? Is, should she make changes to the back line? Should, Michelle Agyemang start the match? She's earned a start. Why is she not starting? And, they're just and I'm like, we're in the final, guys. Like, Sarina Wiegman has pulled out every trick that she's ever learned, and not trick, but, scenario-based responses that have been planned, that have ultimately been really well executed, and that's why we're in the final. And I can't quite get my head around it, but what I've learned, I've accepted that once you've been you played at international level, you played in the final like I have in the Euros, there's no wavering of belief. Like, you're 1-0 down at half time, you're 2-0 down at half time. There's always experiences, or usually experiences either you personally can draw on, or someone within your team or squad can draw on to relate to a positive outcome. And, we've heard Lucy Bronze sort of saying, we've been in this situation, and her having that experience to have that rallying cry. And Sarina Wiegman, I think it was Ella Toon talking about the inspirational team talks and half-time talks. It doesn't just happen by accident, and it's not, there's no fault. It's the fact that we're playing against, I believe winning the Euros is harder than winning the World Cup. I genuinely believe that. And I fully believe and fully invested in the structure and everything that Sarina Wiegman and the staff have put together, because those girls are not out there fighting because they're just individual fighters. They're out there because the environment that's created by that squad, by Sarina Wiegman, by the staff, has brought them together, has brought them to be united, has brought them to want to fight and leave every little bit of blood and guts and effort on the pitch for each other. That doesn't just happen. And I'm not sick of journalists trying to create things on the side, but I'm like, let the girls go out and play football, because they know what they're doing. You don't.
Oh, you've got to have this little bit of dramatic narratives around a tournament, though. I think me and Rach talked about this on the previous pod, where the expectation of what the Lionesses, how the Lionesses should win, is now so high after Euro 2022, because we did see really dominant performances quite throughout the tournament. Obviously, that was 3 years back. Things have moved on. Teams have got better. Tactics have changed. We've got a new squad. It's, there's all different factors that kind of vary that up. But I think the manner in which tournaments are won now seems to be something that people are super, super interested in. I mean, we had so many, there was a lot of negativity even around the Women's World Cup in 2023. Some of the games didn't go to plan. We saw a lot of people saying, well, this isn't good enough. We've won the game, but we should have done this, X, Y, and Z. And then we're seeing the same narratives, I suppose, repeated in this tournament, where it's not always pretty. There have been some last gasp attempts. There have been emergency defending. There have been game plans that haven't been completely executed in the way that we'd have liked to. But at the end of the day, I suppose, we are still in a final. It's the third successive final.
We've only been to one final ever before we won the Euros in 2022. We'd never got to World Cup final. We got to the one Euro final in 2009. We got battered by Germany. And we probably at that point sort of didn't really believe that we should have got there. Whereas this team in 2022 went out and done something that had never been done before. Senior teams never won the Euros before. I can't wait to see the two teams go toe to toe and bring that contrast of styles, bring on our fight and our grit and our elbows and our knees, and show everybody at home, show the world what a brilliant team we are, not just on the pitch in 90, 120 minutes when it counts, but also off the pitch. Because I think this tournament, how we've conducted ourselves off the pitch, how the Lionesses and the staff have dealt with issues off the pitch, how they've continued to show how united they are in their own bubble environment, and how concentrated and focused they are just on what they can do, and being able to shut out all of the outside noise. That's all part of being an elite level athlete. But they've proven time and time again how relaxed they are, how calm, how assured they are, and how focused they are on going out there and winning tomorrow.
What have you made of Spain? I know you've touched them a little bit there, but you commentated, right, on their group stage games. And then I guess that Germany game was a big moment for them, beating Germany for the first time, getting to a Euros for the first time. Do you think that will boost their confidence as well, that they've been challenged and still come through?
I think so. Yeah, it will do. I think history caught up with Germany, because having never beaten Germany in this sort of in 2025, you go, well, Spain have probably been consistently better than Germany for a few years, but Germany have been powerhouses the women's game for so long. I think it will be, it's a moment of history for them. It's a moment of history for them to get to the final of the Euros. They've never done that before. So they're almost in the situation that England were, 3 years ago, having an opportunity to make history against players that they're relatively familiar with. This is the new rivalry. This is the new, for me, take the USA almost out of it, take Germany out of it in some ways, take Sweden out of, what, say 5, 6, certainly when I was playing 10 years ago, teams we'd never beaten before, teams who, we'd go in as the underdogs. And that's no arrogance. That's not overconfidence. That's just sort of factually, England have now beaten all these teams, and so shouldn't fear them, should go out with the shoulders high and go out thinking we've done it before. We know we can beat them. We also know how to beat them, with England the last team to beat Spain back in February. And we've seen England being able to employ sort of different tactics, bring on different personnel, set up in different ways, play with 3 at the back, play with 4 at the back, play with none at the back pretty much in that last game, and come out with on top. So yeah, as much as Spain will be confident absolutely going into this, we'll maybe see it as like an opportunity for revenge for the Euros. So might England, because they nicked that World Cup off us.
It does kind of feel like the England-Spain results have been very flip-flop. One time they win, one time they don't, one time they win, one time they don't. So I think going into this fixture, it does feel very evenly balanced. And I think we always say in tournament football, when it comes to a final, it doesn't matter what's gone on before. The slate is wiped clean. This is the only game that matters in these 90 minutes. And I think, like you said there, Rach, there's a couple of ways that we do feel like at least England can exploit some of Spain's very rare weaknesses. And we've seen it happen in the tournament before. They have conceded goals, and they've conceded goals that they shouldn't really be doing. It's so. What do we think is going to be the kind of tactic that England are going to employ to sort of get at Spain? I mean, we had some really good questions in from our listeners last pod about whether we're more comfortable out of possession, whether we kind of just go on those chances, the rare chances that we might get to actually counter them on the break, or do we capitalise on those moments where Spain push forward and kind of commit a lot of bodies forward, and kind of then we can go in behind? I mean, what do you think is going to be the kind of, if you were managing the team, what would you be saying are your top 3 tactics for how England win this game? Not to put you on the spot.
I'd go to Ian and say, Ian, what did Sarina tell you to do? And I'd make sure that was done. I think you don't have to be a massive football expert really to see the vulnerabilities of Spain. And by the way, I'm sick of everyone talking about the Spain midfield and that's where it's going to be won. I'm like, what about our midfield? We've got Kira Walsh, who's played for Barcelona, who's one of the best midfielders in the world, just sort of quietly goes about it. And, I love Aitana Bonmati. I think she's an amazing player. I think she's a very humble and very fantastic role model for any young player. But I'd back our midfield. We've also got Ella Toon's been brilliant this tournament. George Stanway has just run her legs off, and they're sort of the way they recognise where they need to be, both in and out of possession, because they recognise that they're not always going to be. It's not always about them on the ball. So as a 3, I think they work so well, recognising where the other one is, where the turnover is, and therefore where they need to be able to shut off channels, or to be able to apply pressure, or to sit and be a little bit flatter. I don't think it's going to be won or lost in midfield, because I don't think, one will overpower the other. And so Spain have looked, where you can get at Spain is with that high defensive back line that they have. Irina Paredes, yes, she looks dangerous on attacking corners, but I think the ball in behind kind of exploits, or certainly it puts England forwards at an advantage. She's not slow, but our forwards are faster.
She struggles with direct runners sometimes.
She does. So we saw that against Germany, didn't we? Either off the left-hand side with Jules Brand or Clara Bull coming from left to centre in that run, and that ball kind of played down the middle. And what I'd be looking at as well, because Katakoi, as you do, Chloe, and I know you'll know this is a top class goalkeeper. You know, when the defence push up, the goalkeeper
she takes off sometimes, doesn't she?
Yeah, but the goalkeeper's got to go high as well and almost keep the same distance between goalkeeper and defender. So the higher your defence go, the higher you go as a goalkeeper. Mate, if I was looking like George Stanway, Kira Walsh, Lucy Bronze, they've all got the ability to see Catacol off a line and go, do you know what, I'm fancy my chances against her. And what that does, even if do it once, maybe do it twice, it's going to pin Catacol back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then that gap between the goalkeeper and the defence gets a little bit bigger. It might get a yard or two bigger because Catacol is aware that a long shot might come in. And then that gap is bigger and that gives more space for our front runners to run into.
This is the thing as well, is like everyone always says you set up defensively against Spain and you've got to be really defensive. And you do, you need to be disciplined in your positioning because you're not going to have a lot of the ball. But you can't like sit back. And I don't think we expect necessarily England to sit back. They need to be defensive from the front, right? Like they need to be that high press, yes, but you need to be winning the ball higher up the pitch, not like waiting and inviting Spain all the way back into your box.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you don't want a particularly high line. You just want your normal sort of back line. Like, you know, keep saying like Germany did. It wasn't an exceptionally high line. It wasn't an exceptionally deep line. It's just backing yourself to defend against teams. I think, you know, we've had a few fluctuations in our back line during the tournament, partly down to, you know, the opposition that we've come up against. Whatever reasons it's been, it's worked ultimately. And yes, it hasn't been perfect, but we found ways to kind of screen in front of the back four, to cover when we've had sort of wide players who've been on the opposition being sort of like their strengths. We've been able to completely nullify it. I mean, look, the game against Netherlands, people were talking about, Bernstein didn't start, but Esme Brooks, the fullbacks bombing on forwards. Mate, they might as well stay in the changing room. You know what I mean? They had like no joy whatsoever. And so, I've no doubt we can't sit on our own. We can't camp out on the 18-yard box. Absolutely not. And we wouldn't do that. We back ourselves too much. We're too good of a team to worry excessively what Spain are going to do to us. So we have to back our game plan. We have to back the compactness of the defensive unit with the midfield and the forward line. That's been brilliant, I think, throughout the tournament. There's not been huge gaps between any of those units. And so if the ball is played through from, you know, the front three, we want Alessia Russo to keep pressing because she's done such a kind of, you know, sometimes a thankless task, but it's not a thankless within the team because her pressing means that next pass is more predictable because she's pushing them one particular way, which allows our midfield then to predict more accurately where the ball's going to go. And it all has that knock-on effect. It's not just running around doggedly. It has a purpose. So how England need to play is for England to play as they are doing continuously. I don't think there's any magic formula or magic recipe to counter Spain. England, it's more about England in my opinion. If England come out front-footed, backing what they're doing, you know, I'd love England to go ahead for one time in this tournament. Just let us like chill just for a little bit and just sort of enjoy that lead. But yeah, it's just as much about focusing on, more so focusing on England's game plan for England to win the game than it is worrying or considering what Spain do very well and how to counter it.
We've got a good question in from WSLSE on Blue Sky. He said, Hannah Hampton can kick it a long way with precision. Should she do that with goal kicks against Spain rather than England trying to build from the back? And what have you made of Hannah Hampton's tournament so far?
I think Hannah Hampton's decision making has been brilliant. So, you know, you're talking about playing out from the back from goal kicks. That's not something you have to do every time. You know, that is a principle that ideally, if it's looking to build through the thirds and looking at the opposition's press, it's doable and we think it'll be an advantage, you do it. If it's not, and it's going to put you in the shit and it's going to, you know, invite pressure and you're looking at the state of the game, not just that individual snapshot of how players are set up, that's what I think Hannah Hampton's done really, really well, is managing the game. Particularly, it sounds such a simple thing from goal kicks, like go short or go long. Well, actually, there's a lot of things to sort of process to go, right, this is my decision. So should she, shouldn't she? There's no answer to that.
In terms of starting 11, because we've had some of our listeners messaging in the last chat about, understandably, Agyemang and Kelly and how they should start, and we've discussed why we think they're more impactful from the bench and what a weapon they are that they provide for the team. I feel like you're on a similar wavelength when it comes to that. And also we've got to factor in that potentially LJ is not going to be fit to start. So it's another thing that we have to contend with as well. So do you see many changes?
No, I don't. I think you mentioned there personnel would be, for me, the only reason to change the starting lineup. If Lauren James isn't, I mean, how great was it that she played full 120 the other night? And she said she surprised herself by playing 120 minutes. So that's brilliant that she was kind of pushed to that point, but then obviously came off in the last game after 45. So, what that was, not sure. She got a knock, I think, in the
ankle in the Sweden game and the Italy game. Yeah. So, I reckon she'll be fine. That's just my own gut instinct, because who don't want to play in the Euros final? And I'm not implying that she wouldn't want to. Of course she would. So should everybody be fit, then I think she'll keep the same starting lineup as the Italy game, and keep with the formula that served us so well. But maybe a little bit earlier?
Well,
maybe not 86 minutes.
I mean, I have sort of slipped a little note under Sarina's door saying, please, 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 can we just get this done in 90 minutes? And therefore, if you could make the substitutions
just a little earlier,
70, 71, that'd be great.
I mean, talking of subs, we absolutely have to give a little bit more flowers to Michelle Agyemang. I mean, me and Rach have absolutely gone to town on how many accolades awesome. And how much just love we can throw to this kid. I mean, 19 years old, only turned 19 in February, comes on in, two of the most pivotal moments of a game, weight of expectation on her shoulders, and delivers the performance of a lifetime at that age, and kind of does it in such a way that you'd think she was just having a kickabout.
Well, obviously, like, I'm a mum myself of 2 kids, and I just, I'm sat in the semi-final. I was sat with all the friends and family, because I wasn't working on that game, but sat there, and so sat literally like 2 rows directly behind Michelle Agyemang's family, and they were just so calm and so sort of, kind of well done, and you just think that's where they get it from. They're obviously a very sort of considered family. It was, but just that feeling of how I would feel with my kids achieving something like this, it makes you feel quite emotional about it. And what I do think has probably helped Michelle Agyemang, there's been no expectation to come into the tournament. People weren't writing about, is this the new superstar who's going to lead England to potentially winning the Euros? There was none of that expectation or weight or anything that would hamper her performances, and it's absolutely shown. The Lionesses have talked about how much they're in a bubble in camp, and they just talk to each other about kind of the stuff in camp and about preparing for the game, and are not sort of ready to burst the bubble yet to get out into the real world. And that is only helping both Michelle Agyemang as well as some of the other young players who are making their debut. And it's lovely, isn't it, seeing that symmetry between Alessia Russo playing the Ellen White role and Michelle Agyemang moving on, just like a conveyor belt, into the role of Alessia Russo from 2022 and becoming that next superstar.
It must be quite there must be a huge amount of confidence though as well for her, because I imagine she came in maybe not thinking she'd have loads to do, and to see your manager turn to you in a difficult time and say, I believe you're the answer, to be able to then go and deliver that, rather than say, oh my God, what a weight on my shoulders. It's almost like it lifts her, and that the team believes we just need Michelle on the pitch to change things. And that must I don't know, that must really just make you walk on air.
Yeah, I think to be part of the sort of, not the plan B, but the 70, 80 minute, game changer plan. It's like, right, special teams, get ready, get on the pitch. We need to get 2 goals back
in 5 minutes.
but knowing that you're part of the plan to get you out the shit, to get your team to go on and win the game potentially, or certainly claw yourself back into the game. Yeah, that'll have given her absolutely loads of confidence, and that won't be just something Sarina's gone, who do I bring on? Okay, right, I'm going to give Michelle Agyemang a go, and it's come on and it's worked. That's weeks and months. And talk about Michelle Agyemang's come through the age groups. She played in the 23s. I was chatting to the FA and people like Emma Jenks, who's been a part of, we want to see the Lionesses come through, and the finishers program that they're running at the FA, where they're bringing in former international players, likes of Karen Walker and Kelly and Kerry Davis, to kind of share their experiences of what it takes, that finishing touch, to be able to kind of switch into that mindset where it's cool and calm in that very split second where you need to execute, a finish in a big moment. And, it's all part of all these little things feed into having a 19-year-old ready at the European Championships to come on and be that striker that the whole nation is sort of not relying on, but is kind of holding their hopes on, and her being able to shoulder that. So it's not just, a chance opportunity. It's been in the making, but she's absolutely thriving on this moment. And I think everybody sort of involved with England, with the Lionesses, just feels so proud to be part of this Lionesses. I certainly do. I'm 10 years finished now, but I still feel part of the family. I feel part of what the success is happening right here and right now. And yeah, I'm so proud for Michelle Agyemang and her family that she's really thriving and enjoying the tournament, because that's why we all start playing.
Honestly, I think first point of business for Arsenal Monday morning, recalling that loan, getting her back in. I think that's gonna take place, obviously. Rach, you've obviously had a very impressive record with your predictions for this tournament. 20 out of 28 have been correct, I think, in your BBC Sport column. It's almost like you're a football expert. Who knew? Including a perfect 2-1 prediction for the England-Italy semi-final. What do you think is going to happen on Sunday? Tell us. What you've got no sitting on the fence.
I've seen your prediction.
Yeah, let's go. Do it. Drop it.
2-1 England. No extra time this time. No dicking around. No kind of elongating the process.
I love that. That means a £30 will be taking its pride of place in my bank account on Monday morning.
You can buy me 1 cup of coffee and one
in Switzerland,
bottle of water in Switzerland. Then that'd be great.
For the whole tournament, obviously, I've found it really difficult to see beyond Spain, and I think the tournament that they've had and the kind of how it hasn't maybe been as difficult. But the more people I talk to and the more kind of analysis I read, I think maybe we don't put enough value on the journey that England have gone through and how beneficial that's going to be for them in a final, because it's probably galvanised them a huge amount. So, more people are bringing me around to the fact that England could do it. I think I know they can. I know they've got the quality to. It's just whether they turn up on the day. So,
Rach, thank you so much for joining us. We've obviously taken up quite a lot of your time on this very, very busy morning. Really appreciate you coming on and giving your insights as someone who's been in and around the punditry box, obviously part of the Lionesses setup, and just been an OG with us, to be honest. It just feels so fitting that we've got you back on at this pivotal moment in England's journey. But yeah, really appreciate you, mate. And yeah, best of luck tomorrow.
Come on, England. Rach, I can't believe I've still not converted you. You are.
I know.
You need a pep talk after pep talk.
I know.
Pep talk this tournament. So
you haven't given me one yet, Joe. So I'll wait for the text. Okay. And then you can change your mind.
Game on. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Thanks, Rach.
Cheers. Oh, Rach, I actually don't know whether having second Rachel on was a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know whether I'm more nervous or less nervous about this. I kind of feel like she provided a lot of good context.
I liked what you said about, not being lucky. There's an element of luck and a rub of the green in games, but, you don't accidentally score a goal by sitting back and defending. England are constantly putting themselves in those positions to get goals and to break down teams. And I was watching back some of the highlights the other day, and it was just the Italy game in particular was just full of England chances, and I think when you have to put yourself in those positions for this so-called luck to happen, you're not going to get that by sitting back and not creating opportunities. So I think she was good on that kind of clarity, and also just the the wider context of the decisions that are made and how they're made within a team, and we don't know how that happens. We don't know how players train. We don't know how those relationships are looking on the pitch and who's linking up well, who's not, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that was really valuable to hear from her about like those decisions and why things are made. And yes, you know, I'm sure Sarina will look at 86 minutes or whatever it was and think maybe that could have happened a bit earlier, but equally they go away and go, right, what did we do? What decisions did we make? And where actually could we improve? So I thought that was quite interesting.
I think I have to disagree on the luck point and the jamminess. Like, I kind of stand by that. Like, when you look at like how those last two games were won, like the penalty shootout in particular in Sweden, there was at least 2 or 3 opportunities there where Sweden had a penalty and missed. Like, that is luck. That's 100% luck. Like, we shouldn't have been in that position in the first place, but we were. Us getting through by the skin of our teeth was luck. Like, there are moments of that in the tournament, and that's not to say that's only England that have been through that 100%, but like, we haven't played the way that we can do in games. Which
were Germany lucky when they got through against France?
Well, I think that's the thing, though. Every team has had a bit of luck, but I'm just saying, like, we can't ignore the fact that luck has played a part in the journey. That's what I'm saying.
To a degree, absolutely. Yeah. But they wouldn't have gotten to that penalty shootout if they hadn't got back in after being 2-0 down.
In a final, like, taking away the talent that we have on the squad, the depth of the ability of the players, and like how they, you know, prepare mentally for the tournaments. I'm not taking away. I don't want luck to take away from like the actual talent that we have in the squad, the game management, like how mentally prepared the team are. But like, luck has played a factor. I will always stand by that. The nice thing, I suppose, that Rach did say was that she also reckons that England have learned more about themselves during this tournament than Spain. I think, given the challenges, given the adversity we've faced, given the fact that we've had to problem solve, given some of the injuries as well that we've had. I think there's been that kind of, I don't know, maybe we have kind of had that resilience, I suppose, that Spain have had, whereas Spain have had a different tournament in the... Well, I mean, what did you take on that, Rach?
Yeah, I think it's super cliche. I had a teacher when I was like 11 and 12. I had him for 2 years in a row, and he used to always say that mistakes were the stepping stones to knowledge.
Ooh,
and
good teacher.
Actually, when you think about it, like, England are going to learn an awful lot more about themselves when they've not done things well. And I think sometimes when something kind of hits you in the face or maybe gives you a kick up the arse, you kind of think, Jesus, okay, right, we really need to sort this out. And that kind of happened after the France game. I think it kind of happened after the Sweden game, because I still believe England played well against Italy and had the right game plan, but just were not clinical at the right moments. And I think to have gotten through the semi-finals, they were staring elimination like square in the face. And I think that does things to a player in terms of waking them up to what might need to improve or whatever that might be. So yeah, I think there'll definitely have been a galvanising effect. I think a lot of the players have spoken about that, and they recognise how close they were to going out. And I do think that will massively help them in the final.
Also, that there are no changes to England's starting 11. I think, Rach, we're kind of on the same page with this, to be fair. I think bar Lauren James, still been undecided about whether she's actually going to be able to play. Rach obviously does, Rachel Brown-Finnis, thinks that probably on balance she will. It would have to take something quite serious for LJ to miss out on playing at least some minutes. Yeah, I think I've got to admit, but I do think Esme Morgan will keep her shirt at the back line. Do you think the same?
I'm losing my mind, because last time I was like, full on, fuck it, go wild, go 3 at the back, put 2 up front, let's go.
Michelle Agyemang starting.
That's how emotional I was after the bloody Italy game. So I don't see changes. Like, honestly, I do think RBF is right in that respect. And I do think Morgan will probably start for sure. Well, not for sure, but I do think Morgan will start. I think she did well against Italy, and provided, I don't think necessarily that there's going to be, as many crosses and stuff into the box, but Spain have been going a little bit more direct, and she offers a little bit more coverage there. So I wouldn't be surprised if she starts. And then, yeah, the LJ thing, difficult one. And if she's not fit, then you've got that question of whether you start her or whether you finish her, and when it's more impactful to have her on the pitch. So yeah, but equally it could be mind games.
Oh, mate, I just feel like it's like, I was just saying, like, I want to stay in this pod forever. And it kind of feels like I remember we were, the same thing happening for us just before the 2023 World Cup final. I mean, it just feels like such a big throwback. I mean, 2 years ago, Ray, so much has changed. I was a young 33-year-old at the start of her media career in women's football. Rach, you've obviously been in the business for longer than
I've never been young doing this.
Yeah, been in the business for decades and decades now. I mean, obviously so much has happened, not obviously just with us, but with the England squad as well. I mean, why do you think, or how much do you think England have kind of learned since that World Cup final? Because that was obviously the last time that these two faced each other in a cup final.
That World Cup was so interesting because there was so much more to England's journey than maybe enough credit was given to, in terms of like the players that were missing and the injuries they had to deal with. And, it went from being an England that started the same 11 and had the same subs at the same time to a team that had to, partway through the competition, make complete changes and do formation changes, and there were an awful lot more challenges thrown. And I think a lot of that is down to the growth of the women's game worldwide. I think that World Cup was a real example of that, and every team was a challenge. So I was surprised that RBF said it's harder to win a Euros than a World Cup, because I just think that the quality has increased across the board, that you can never really take for granted any team that you're playing or any result. And I think it wasn't just England who came up against very tough opposition. A lot of teams had surprising results out there. So, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway, was the different type of journey. And also like how much having a home tournament drives you. So that's something that's a big chunk of, a big factor that's not here for England in this tournament, is that home nation kind of drive and push. And I know they would have been in a bubble then, but it would have just been a very different bubble. So I think we maybe forget about the transition at times of the team, the players that have come in, the players that have gone out, like the new styles, the fact they've had to play a home nation. They haven't had the opportunity to have, like most teams, many friendlies to really try out players, and just a lot more challenges potentially for teams across the board coming into this tournament. And perhaps that's why no one team has like blown everything away. I know Spain have had a good tournament, but no one team has really, like, for a while now, been unbelievable, because you're dealing with loading, you're dealing with a different type of competition you have to face in the Nations League, all that kind of stuff coming in. So I think it's made for a much more interesting Euros this time round.
Just to close off this pod, Rach, we asked for some of our listeners' thoughts ahead of Sunday. Kirsty Mack, with 2 C's, says, making Leah Williamson's England are never done my mantra. And then we've got Jamie the Terrible saying, Jamie, what have you done in your life? Think we'll lose to the superior side, so the only way is up.
That's the attitude.
That's just horrible. That's just really, really horrible.
No, it's terrible. Jamie the Terrible.
Yeah, Jamie, go away and reflect on that. Not a big fan of that thought at all. Kat Kenzie says, cautiously optimistic. I have this feeling, which may turn out to be total bollocks, but I do just have this feeling. Last question. Score predictions. What are they?
I hate score predictions. They're entirely pointless.
Do it.
I'm going to say head says Spain, heart says England.
No, score predictions though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, let's get granular. Score predictions.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying. So
it's a women's football podcast. You're going to have to. I know,
and I've given you what my prediction is for the game. Score predictions are entirely pointless.
Producer Finn, step in.
Tattletaling.
Yeah, Rach has to give her answer.
He's just waiting for you to carry on. He's not even bothered.
No one's even there. No one's even there.
He's hung up. This is just us two in a room.
Right,
Finn's
I'm
left.
saying 2-1, England for the win, but I do think it will be in extra time. I think it'll be. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's going to be another late night for you. It's going to be 1-1 at full time, and then it's going to be 2-1.
So sick of extra time.
But at least we don't go to penalties. Okay, that's what we all want, and I can't wait to be jubilant. Touch wood on Monday morning.
I hope I'm wrong.
That is when we're obviously back. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss our reaction to the final of Euro 2025. We're also going to be looking back at the whole tournament on Tuesday, so definitely stay tuned for that. Follow us on socials at upfront_pod. I am at Morgie_89 and Rach is at Girls on the Ball. Remember, make sure you hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode from us. Rach, all the best out in the tournament. I hope you have the most amazing time watching the game in real life in the stadium. I feel absolutely gutted I'm not there. I'm going to be living through your eyes that day. I will see you on Monday, mate, for what I hope is one of the best podcasts of our entire life.
So do I.